The notorious killer Jason Voorhees has been captured by the U.S. government and is now confined within a high-security scientific facility. Since traditional methods cannot kill him, the scientists decide the only viable option is to cryogenically freeze him. One guard becomes uneasy under Jason's intense stare and tosses a sheet over his head for his own peace of mind. Meanwhile, Dr. Rowan finds herself in a heated disagreement with her superior. The plan to freeze Jason is being overridden. They now intend to send him to another research center to monetize his regenerative capability. Rowan insists that keeping him alive poses too great a risk, but her concerns are dismissed. A team of soldiers and scientists enters the chamber to proceed with the relocation. To their horror, when they remove the sheet, they find that the figure under it is not Jason, but the dead guard, bound in chains. Suddenly, Jason emerges from hiding and begins a brutal massacre. Gunfire does nothing to stop him as he uses whatever weapons are at hand, including the very chains used to restrain him. When the lead scientist attempts to flee, Jason hurls a heavy tool at him, killing him on the spot. Outside, Rowan is startled when a soldier's body crashes the door. Jason appears behind her. Acting quickly, she grabs the soldier's weapon, flees into the cryogenics lab, trying to lure Jason inside. She uses furniture and firepower to force him into the pod and activates the freezing. However, Jason stabs through the door with a machete just before the freeze begins, wounding Rowan. This causes the system to malfunction and release cryogenic vapor, freezing both Jason and Rowan in the process. The Earth is now a barren, toxic waste. Humanity has colonized a new planet, Earth 2. A group of students, guided by Professor Lowe, visits the ruins of Earth for a field mission. Inside the old lab, they discover the frozen bodies of Jason and Rowan still intact. The team decides to bring them back to their ship. During the retrieval, Jason's machete accidentally severs Azrael's arm. Fortunately, the onboard android KM administers emergency care. Advanced nanotechnology later reattaches Azrael's arm flawlessly. The two bodies are moved to separate labs, Rowan for healing, Jason for analysis. In the lab, the group marvels at how Jason's brain is unusually small, yet his survival capability defy logic. Rowan is revived using nanotech, which also heals her stab wound. Upon waking, she panics, slapping Lowe and demanding answers. Once calm, she learns that she's 400 years in. Lowe, meanwhile, contacts Solaris Research Station and offers data on both subjects. Reviving cryonized humans commons now, so Rowan garners little However, Jason remains a figure of infamy, and Lowe negotiates a deal to sell him for profit. Elsewhere, student Janessa offers to negotiate grades in private with Lowe. Back in the lab, Adrienne attempts to take a tissue sample from Jason and removes his mask, only to be startled by his grotesque face. She resumes her work unaware that Jason is slowly thawing. In a separate room, Suneron tries modifying KM-14's appearance, but struggles with her anatomy. Meanwhile, sounds of intimate activity from two couples aboard trigger Jason's senses, and he begins to stir. When Adrienne turns around, Jason is gone. He appears behind her, smashes her into a wall, then grabs her and plunges her face into liquid nitrogen, freezing and shattering her skull on the lab counter. Taking his machete, Jason departs to continue his rampage. Lowe delivers food to Rowan and feigns ignorance of Jason's history. Rowan fills him in about Jason's immortality and relentless killing nature. Later, she's introduced to KM-14 and is impressed by her design. When Wayland walks in holding Jason's machete, Rowan freaks out, realizing Jason has been brought aboard. They rush to Lab 2 and discover Adrienne's corpse. Security Chief Brodsky announces a ship-wide lockdown and orders everyone into Lab 1 for safety. In a different room, a young couple is caught off guard by Jason. He kills the male instantly, while the girl Kinsa screams and runs to warn the others. Brodsky instructs his squad to eliminate Jason on sight. However, Lowe bribes him to sedate Jason instead. Brodsky pretends to comply, but in truth, he commands his soldiers to kill the monster. Two soldiers, Dallas and Azrael, engage in a VR training sim and fail to notice the real threat approaching. They mistake the situation for simulation until Jason finally arrives, real, deadly, and unstoppable. As two soldiers continue their simulated battle inside a VR chamber, they're abruptly interrupted. Not by another game boss, but by the real threat, Jason Voorhees. Jason brutally finishes off the digital monster, then turns his attention to the soldiers, slashing at them with his machete. Oddly, both soldiers keep talking, even though Jason appears to have decapitated them. Suddenly, Dallas declares, "Game over," and the simulation ends. The two soldiers freeze in horror as they realize that Jason is not part of the game, he's real. Jason grabs Azrael, but Dallas opens fire to free his teammate. The bullets, however, have no effect. Azrael leaps at Jason to catch him off guard, but Jason simply grabs him midair and snaps his spine, dropping him lifeless to the floor. Dallas suffers next. Jason grabs him and slams his head against the wall with savage. Moments later, their bodies are discovered by other escalating panic aboard the ship. At the same time, Engineer Crutch is working peacefully at his station, headphones in, unaware of the unfolding massacre. He spots Jason's reflection in a nearby mirror, just as Brodsky and his armed team arrive, shouting to duck. They unleash a hail of bullets, tearing through the room and blasting Jason. Once the dust settles, they realize Jason has vanished. Crutch exits for Lab 1, while the team splits up to locate Jason, assuming he must. This decision proves fatal. Jason uses the isolation to silently again, first snapping a soldier's neck in the shadow, then ambushing another and hacking him with machete. That soldier puts up a brief fight, landing a few blows, but Jason punches him off a platform, sending him crashing onto industrial equipment. Pale. The team finds his body soon after and alerts Brodsky, who tells them. Next, Jason sneaks up on a female, slits her throat. She stumbles into a teammate for help, but collapses and dies in his arm. Before he can react, Jason emerges once. The grieving soldier fires furious, forcing Jason back into a hook hanging from the soldier activates the hook to spend Jason and radios the other, claiming victory. But Jason tears himself free and retaliates, slicing the soldier in half. Brodsky goes searching for his men, only to find the last soldier's corpse hanging from the hook. Now he's the last one left. He refuses to back down. As he searches, Jason's arm smashes through a wall and pulls him. Jason stabs him once, but Brodsky grins and taunts that it won't be enough. Jason responds by stabbing him again, this time leaving him dead. In Lab 1, the rest of the crew realizes they have no protection left. Professor Lowe contacts the ship's pilot and instructs him to engage hyperdrive toward Solaris Station as fast as possible. But before they can reach safety, Jason sneaks into the cockpit and murders the pilot. With no one steering, the vessel slams directly into Solaris port, ripping through buildings and igniting explosions. The catastrophic crash devastates part of the port, damages their own ship, and causes a system-wide failure. Looking out the window, they see the port explode behind them. There's no turning back. As panic sets in, Lowe reassures everyone that he already activated stress. Help is supposedly on the way. Suddenly, loud banging erupts from the main door, silencing the... Then, nothing. Silent. Until Jason bursts the glass wall between labs, sending everyone in. The group scrambles to escape. KM-14 manages to secure a room, locking everyone in. Professor Lowe remains behind, trying to appeal to Jason's promise of money and fame. But Jason finds his original machete and uses it to silence Lowe permanently. Now on their own, the remaining survivors regroup and discuss escape options. They recall the small shuttle, a new plan. Rowan, Janessa, and Kinsel head to the shuttle and prep it, while Waylander and Crutch go to the bridge to start the pre-launch. When they reach the bridge, they find the pilot's lifeless body. The situation just keeps getting worse. After a chaotic series of deaths, explosions, and failed escapes, the surviving crew needs to act fast. Jason's body lies motionless on the floor of Lab 1, and the group prepares to move Brodsky so they can access the control. Meanwhile, KM-14 and Sunaran take a moment to gather upgrade parts for KM-14. Their efforts bring them closer, leading to a brief but heartfelt kiss. On their way to the shuttle, Rowan stumbles upon the body of a fallen soldier and retrieves his gun. Shortly after, she notices another figure on the ground. This one appears to be alive. She instructs Janessa and Kinsa to go ahead while she checks it out. Carefully stepping around a bloodied spike, Rowan reaches the figure and is shocked to find Brodsky barely alive but conscious. She promises to return for him. Inside the shuttle, Rowan calls for help of Brodsky. Janessa contacts Crutch to confirm the shuttle's launch status and request backup. Waylander joins Rowan to retrieve Brodsky, but by the time they return to spot his body. At that moment, Crutch discovers the decapitated pilot's head held in Jason's hand. Crutch radios a warning just before Jason slams him against the electrical panel and electrocutes him to death. Hearing the commotion, Kinsa panics and locks herself inside the shuttle, refusing to let the others. Despite Rowan and Waylander's pleas, she prematurely launches the shuttle, only to crash it into the mothership, killing herself and worsening the ship's structural damage. Before the others can react, Jason corners them again. But just then, Sunaran arrives with KM-14, now fully armed and upgraded for combat. Jason hurls his machete at her, seemingly taking her down. But KM-14 was bluffing, springs to life, firing an endless barrage of bullets that sends Jason flying. She leaps at him with a series of acrobatic kicks and gunfire, landing on him, preparing to shoot him point blank. Jason counters with a punch, knocking her off. As he approaches to finish her, Brodsky reappears, wounded but alive, and distracts Jason. KM-14 recovers, picks up a new gun, and blasts Jason's arm off, while simultaneously launching to Lab 1 through a broken. Her final shot lands on Jason's head, knocking him onto the medical bay's nanobot table. As a last insult, KM-14 hurls his machete at his body. Believing it's over, the group regathers and tends to Brodsky, but their relief is short-lived. The ship begins shaking violently. Waylander realizes the ship's structure is failing. Just then, a distress signal is answered by a rescue. They'll arrive. The current is less than 30. In a desperate, Rowan identifies section attached. As the team heads off to exit, they're unaware the healing Lab 1 has acted, and Jason's body built no tech. Moments later, he emerged, reborn, a cybernetic monstrosity. Uber Jason. The crew sets explosive charge attach the damaged portion. Just as they're about to Uber, Jason blocks their KM-14 shoots, but the bullets bounce harmlessly off his metal body. She tries hand-to-hand combat, but Jason insta-capitulates. Sunaran grabs KM-14's head and Rowan covers. Jason grabs her by the throat. Waylander attacks to buy, urging the other escapes Jason back. Once they're safe, Waylander detonates charges, blowing apart that section. Jason is blast space along with Bree. Waylander dies a hero. But peace doesn't last. Jason suddenly punches through the outer hull of the safe section of the ship, creating a breach that begins sucking everything into space. The survivors cling to anything they can. Janessa, unfortunately, grabs a vent grill that detaches. She's pulled into the vacuum of space. Rowan tries to save her, but she's too late. Now only Rowan, Sunaran, and KM-14's head remain. They lock themselves in a sealed room. Through a window, they see Jason punching his way back in. With time running out, they flee to the docking bay just as the rescue vessel arrives. But the gate won't open. Sunaran can't override it. Brodsky, refusing to give up, suits up and exits via a maintenance hatch to manually reset the external system. Inside, Rowan and Sunaran hear Jason approaching again. To stall him, Sunaran plugs KM-14's head into the ship's mainframe and activates a virtual reality simulation, recreating Crystal Lake, Jason's childhood home. Jason is disoriented by the nostalgic setting. To further delay him, Sunaran adds two scantily clad women offering alcohol and illicit fun. Jason, being Jason, despises such behavior. He grabs one of the virtual women in a sleeping bag and beats the other one to death with her. Meanwhile, Brodsky finishes the repair and opens the docking gate, but an explosion ends the simulation. Jason immediately resumes his hunt. Rowan and Sunaran board the rescue ship, but Sunaran realizes he left KM-14's head behind. Rowan rushes back, grabs her, and is pursued by Jason. Just before Jason can reach her, Brodsky slams the gate shut and confronts him. The rescue vessel has to depart immediately. As it speeds away, the ship behind them explodes. A flaming Jason flies toward the vessel in the shockwave, but so does Brodsky. With one final heroic act, Brodsky intercepts Jason mid-air and drags him into the atmosphere of Earth-2. As they fall, both of them are engulfed in flame. On Earth-2, a young couple watches what appears to be a shooting star crash into a lake. But it's not a star, it's Jason's metallic mask, resting silently beneath the water.